I walked into the dimly lit reception hall, my heart racing as I scanned the room for them. The weight of betrayal was like lead in my chest. Sophia stood near the head of the table, stunning in her immaculate white dress. Her laughter ringing through the space hurt more than I thought it would. I spotted my husband leaning into her, whispering something that made her smirk. My stomach churned. Their intimacy was undeniable. Clutching my wine glass tightly, I decided to confront them. My steps felt heavy, dragging the weight of everything I'd just realized. I stood right before them, words sticking in my throat. My husband's eyes widened, as though he knew what was coming. Sophia's smile faltered. I blurted out the affair, loud enough for the whole room to hear. The shock was instant, like a thunderclap in the air, silencing everything. Sophia froze completely, her makeup perfect, yet her face twisted into disbelief and something uglier. Gasps rippled through the reception. My husband stammered, "Eliza, stop!" But his face betrayed him. It was drenched in guilt. I locked eyes with him, my anger unwavering. She screamed for security to remove me, her face collapsing into desperation. I refused to leave. Everyone deserved to know the reality. I turned to the crowd and laid everything bare, the texts, the sneaking around. A murmur of discomfort spread among the guests. My parents sat frozen in their chairs, their faces pale. Mom's hand was on her mouth. Dad's grip on his cane trembled slightly. I couldn't stop my voice from trembling when I said, "You ruined everything." The silence after those words felt louder than my shouting. She stuttered, flailing for words, before shrieking, "You're lying!" But her tone only betrayed her further. It was almost laughable. The guests began whispering among themselves. Some looked horrified, others uncomfortable, shuffling their chairs. The sound was almost deafening. My husband tried to grab my hand to stop me, but I yanked it away, boiling over. "Don't even touch me!" I spat at him. Someone stepped forward, an older aunt trying to mediate. "Eliza, let's talk outside," she whispered. But I wasn't backing down. Not now. Sophia finally broke into sobs, mascara streaking down her perfect face. Some guests walked off, embarrassed, while others stood frozen. I left her standing there and turned to him. The affair was clear, but I needed to know how long, how deep their betrayal went. He stumbled over his words, trying to deny, but the truth spilled out. Months of deception. Each detail felt like another blow. Someone turned the music back on to drown the tension, but it only highlighted the chaos. The newly awkward tunes echoed in the room. Sophia lunged at me, screaming incoherently, but others pulled her back. Her pristine wedding dress ripped slightly in the commotion. I stayed calm, watching her unravel. "You brought this on yourself," I said. My tone flat, but filled with years of hurt. Security finally arrived, but I wasn't afraid. I welcomed their presence as people whispered and kept stealing glances at me. They escorted me out, and I walked with my head high, refusing to let my shame overshadow this moment of clarity. Outside, the cold air hit me, sharp but refreshing. It felt like a strange relief. Even with my world crashing down around me, I leaned against the railing, trying to breathe as tears finally came. The wedding behind the glass doors faded into painful irrelevance. An old friend came out, hesitating before offering me a tissue. "You did what you had to do," he murmured softly. I nodded, unsure of what to say, but his presence felt grounding. The night air seemed colder, but clearer somehow. The sound of distant laughter reached me. I realized they could continue their facade, but they'd never erase the truth I unleashed. I took a deep breath and walked away, into the night, leaving behind their fake smiles and shattered illusions. It started 3 weeks before my wedding. I was browsing through photos on Sophia's laptop, looking for old memories for a slideshow. We were close, deeper than sisters. She trusted me entirely. Scrolling, I came across photos that shattered me. Connor, my fiancé, shirtless in Sophia's bedroom, laughing with her. Love became a cruel betrayal. I couldn't breathe as the world collapsed. The betrayal overwhelmed me, tighter than a vice on my chest. I scrolled through more images, each one cutting deeper. Sophia's carefree singing drifted from the next room, unaware of disaster. I closed the laptop, but the pictures haunted me, etched into my mind. My hands trembled as I whispered a broken, "Why?" Sophia's joyful voice seemed oblivious to the storm surging within me. In those moments, every piece of my world felt torn apart. The singing was a cruel reminder of my hollow trust. I stood, shaky feet beneath me, ready to confront the hurricane concealed in silence. Walking to the living room, every step was an earthquake. Sophia sat there, radiant and unaware. I hesitated, heart pounding louder than her song, ready for this unbearable reckoning. I managed to choke out Connor's name, searching Sophia's eyes for guilt, confusion, anything to tether this agony to truth. Her laughter stumbled into silence, the song shattered by realization. Sophia's silence weighed heavier than any answer. Her guilt was undeniable. I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes, but felt no victory in confirming my fear, only a deeper ache. The world slowed down as I whispered, battling tears, asking her why. The word echoed, leaving only devastating silence in its wake. Sophia's expression cracked, revealing the weight of her betrayal. A single tear traced Sophia's cheek as she tried to explain, but nothing made sense. Our friendship felt like a facade, and my love for Connor transformed into a weapon against me. Suddenly, I felt the need to escape, overwhelmed by their lies. I turned away, the living room feeling suffocating. I needed air, clarity, anything but their deceptive shadows. Outside, the chilly air hit me. It was freeing but foreign. How could everything feel so fractured while the world went on unaffected? I crumbled onto the steps, reliving the betrayal. The streetlights hummed softly above as I stared into the pavement. I couldn't erase the images from my mind. Connor's laughter, Sophia's betrayal. It all suffocated me in the night air. Minutes felt endless as I realized the lie had tainted everything. The upcoming wedding now seemed like a foolish dream, a mockery of love's illusion under the harsh glow of streetlights. I thought of confronting Connor, needing answers, explanations, yet fear and pain held me captive. What if he admitted it? The truth seemed as brutal as the deceit. I shivered alone. I decided to go back inside, facing the truth I couldn't avoid. Each step was agony. The walls and silence of the house, now strange and unfriendly, haunted by deception. Back inside, Sophia watched me with uncertainty, her remorse visible yet foreign. The weight of friendship hovered in the room, unbearable and heavy, betraying all I held dear. Unable to speak, I gestured dramatically to the laptop, a cold witness to infidelity. Sophia nodded, defeated, understanding my silence was louder than words. We stood amidst broken trust. There was a knock on the door. It was Connor. The air crackled with tension. Each moment stretched thin as I faced this ultimate confrontation. My whole world waited and trembled. Connor walked in, confusion clouding his features. His smile faded as he saw my expression. I held the evidence, a dagger disguised as love, in my trembling hands, ready for this confrontation. I showed Connor the images, my silence granting no forgiveness. His eyes widened with shock, feigning innocence as reality tightened its grip. This was the reckoning, where words fell useless. Connor started to speak, but the weight of betrayal crushed his explanations. I felt a fierce clarity, the deception now a raft steering me away from this sinking ship called certainty. I turned from both Sophia and Connor, realizing my need was self-preservation. I'd drown if I stayed in their lies, so I stepped toward an uncertain future, breaking free from the past. The door closed behind me, sealing away the hurt. The outside world didn't promise healing, but it whispered potential for new beginnings. The night air felt almost soothing against my skin. I wandered aimlessly. The city's hum whispered recovery as its lights flickered faintly in the dark. The universe was vast, indifferent to my heartache, yet filled with unseen opportunities. A park bench became my refuge. I sat and inhaled deeply, feeling the chill, yet promising fresh air. It was the first calm after the storm, an unknown path unfolding ahead. The distant sounds of nightlife buzzed softly. I realized I was free from the facades, the air sweeter without their shadows. I vowed to rediscover myself beyond their deception. The night sky held stars, silent witnesses to my journey. Each twinkle felt like a promise that things could change, that I could heal. It was time to embrace the unknown. I stood up, brushing away the chill with renewed determination. The road ahead might be tough, but I was stronger than their deceit. It was time to walk my own path. I walked forward into the night, ready to face what lay beyond, leaving betrayal behind. My heart felt bruised but stronger, ready to build a future not tarnished by deceit. It started with a photo. Connor, my husband, leaning in close to Jessica, my sister, on the balcony, their faces too familiar, too intimate. I sat frozen, my heart pounding, as the slideshow of party pictures revealed the ugly truth in silent clicks. For days, I couldn't confront them. I avoided her calls and excuses for our planned tailor appointment, the lies choking me every step. Connor tried acting normal, kissing my cheek during breakfast like it wasn't full of betrayal. His touch felt alien. The slideshow haunted me, my sister laughing, Connor's hand grazing hers. I replayed their betrayal like it was etched on my soul. Each time the betrayal crossed my mind, I felt paralyzed. I stared at the ceiling through restless nights, wondering how it came to this. I clutched my phone, debating calling her, rehearsing questions in my head like, "How long?" or "What were you thinking?" I decided to test Connor first, leaving the photo on the coffee table to see if he reacted. But he passed right by it without noticing. Jessica's text rambled about flower arrangements, each bubbly word a knife through me, making me wonder if she'd seen the photo I had. Even when Connor sat beside me watching TV, his closeness felt like poison. I stiffened as he smiled. Pretending nothing was wrong, one night as Connor kissed my forehead, I jerked back instinctively. The sudden movement made him pause and look confused. His eyes searched mine for an explanation, but I couldn't speak. I just left the room, letting silence explain everything I couldn't. I threw up that night, overwhelmed by the betrayal clawing at my chest, unable to contain the sickness it caused in me. The next morning, Jessica insisted we meet at the cafe, saying there was something urgent we needed to discuss. I hesitated but agreed. When I arrived, she was already there, dressed to the nines in a bright floral dress, like she had no care in the world. I couldn't smile. I sat stiffly across from her, fidgeting with my coffee cup, feeling the words boiling in my throat. She gushed about wedding details, ignoring the tension radiating off me. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "When were you planning to tell me?" I blurted. Jessica's face paled, her easy confidence shattered. She stammered, "I don't know what you mean," but her eyes betrayed her panic. I slid the photo across the table, trembling. As her fingers touched it, everything else in the cafe seemed to vanish. Her voice cracked as she muttered, "Let me explain." But even that felt hollow, as if my trust was already far out of reach. I interrupted her excuses, saying quietly, "Explain? This isn't a misunderstanding, Jess. It's betrayal." My voice didn't shake, but hers did. Connor arrived home that night, finding me sitting wordlessly in the dark. He froze when he saw Jessica's photo in my hand. His words faltered. I demanded, "How could you?" As tears flooded my voice, more than my cheeks could hold. His flimsy protests, "It wasn't serious," only poured gasoline on the fire, and I shouted back until my voice cracked. I packed a bag that night, unable to stand the sight of him. My hands were shaking as I stuffed clothes into it. Jessica called nonstop that night. I blocked her after the 6th voicemail, desperate to silence her voice clawing at my mind. I switched hotels the next morning, paranoid they'd find me. I told myself starting over would hurt less than staying to fix ruined pieces. Weeks away gave me clarity. Their betrayal had killed something fundamental in me, something that couldn't revive under false apologies. Connor texted me once, promising to win me back, but I didn't reply. The silence felt like my first victory in weeks. It took months to rebuild, but every day felt lighter without them. I finally stopped looking behind me. I couldn't keep ignoring the signs anymore, so I decided to confront her directly. Sophia was at her dress fitting when I knocked on her apartment door. Unannounced, I stepped inside, and the cozy apartment smelled faintly of lavender and coffee. She laughed nervously. "Eliza, what's going on? You know you can't surprise me like this." My stomach tightened as I glanced around, and then I saw it. A familiar jacket slung carelessly over the back of her chair. Connor's jacket. I bought it last Christmas. I picked up the jacket slowly, holding it in my hands as my anger mixed with dread. Sophia's expression changed instantly. Her face went pale, her hands trembled. The silence stretched painfully. I just held the jacket tighter, staring into her eyes. I didn't need to say anything. My silence was louder than any scream. She tried to speak, stumbling over her words. "Eliza, I can explain." But her voice cracked under the weight of her guilt. Her hands kept trembling. I put the jacket down casually, as though it didn't even matter anymore. "You can explain?" I finally said, letting cruel sarcasm seep into my tone. Sophia started pacing. "I don't know how. It's complicated. You deserve the truth. I know that, but I never meant to hurt you." She looked desperate. I crossed my arms, leaning against the wall, refusing to make it easy for her. Let her squirm, I thought. Maybe the truth felt as suffocating as I did. "Where's Connor?" I asked sharply. She froze, mid-step. Her face was guilty, and her breathing louder. The room felt like it tightened around us. She hesitated for a few seconds before blurting it out. "Not here." The way she said it made it worse. She didn't have to explain where he had been. I took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. Connor's jacket was a screaming reminder of what I already knew. He was here. Don't lie about it. Her lips quivered as the truth hovered just past her words. I clenched my fists, not to fight her, but to suppress the heartbreak rising to choke me. Sophia finally whispered, "We didn't mean for it to happen like this." And the room fell into a terrible, suffocating silence. It felt like betrayal wrapped itself around me. I laughed bitterly, breaking the silence. "Like what? Accidents don't look like this." She didn't respond, but her face crumbled further as regret settled in. She sat down heavily on the couch, burying her head in her hands. "I don't know, I'm sorry," she murmured painfully. Her guilt doused me like cold water. I couldn't bear the suffocating closeness anymore, so I stepped outside. The air hit me like I'd been underwater. Everything felt quieter, heavier. Sitting on the building steps, I stared at the ground, trying to piece together who I even was now. Had any of it mattered? Had I ever mattered? I heard the building door creak open behind me, and she stepped out hesitantly. She looked torn, her expression caught halfway between shame and sympathy. Sophia sat down beside me as if she thought proximity could fix us. I didn't move or even look at her. It was unbearable to be this close. She started talking softly. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I didn't want to lie anymore. I couldn't keep pretending." Her words dissolved into silence. I calmly asked, "Why him? Why the one person I trusted more than anything?" My voice didn't crack, but it wasn't strong either. "Because it hurt him to love you," she answered, her voice breaking slightly. I finally looked at her, really looked, and felt something crack inside me. I spoke again. "You don't get to rewrite who he was or what he meant in my life." My words felt like they could shatter the air between us. Sophia started crying softly, but didn't move. Just sat there. I could feel her guilt pressing down like a weight, yet it didn't lessen my anger. I stood up abruptly, brushing off guilt like it was clinging to my skin. "I don't care how sorry you are. You made your choices. I'll make mine." Walking away, the streetlights hit me like shattered stars. Her crying followed, but I didn't turn back. I had nothing left for her, and nothing left to lose. I wandered aimlessly through the city, every familiar corner stained with memories of him and her. Questions I'd never get answers to floated back to haunt me. The realization hit hard. I wasn't fighting for him or for her anymore. I was fighting to remember who I was before they broke me. Finally, I decided, there's no safety in heartbreak, but there's freedom in goodbye. I stepped forward into the unknown, leaving both of them behind me. Connor and Sophia started acting weird as the wedding got closer, avoiding me and sharing guilty glances that made me sick to my stomach. At family dinners, their stolen glances felt like daggers. I couldn't even look at my mom, who was glowing with pride over the upcoming wedding. During wedding rehearsals, Sophia giggled with what sounded like artificial joy, the kind you could shatter with one whispered truth. I watched my mom beam at Sophia, blind to the weirdness between us all. It was like she was living in a different world. The night before the wedding, Connor came up to me with that fake concern in his voice, asking if I was okay. The audacity. I pulled my hand away when Connor tried to touch it, saying something vague like, "You'll see tomorrow." His confusion made me feel almost giddy. Sophia stood across the room, frozen like she knew exactly what I meant. Her silence said everything. I went to bed half anxious, half energized by the chaos I was about to unleash. The lie they'd built was about to crumble. Morning felt surreal. The house buzzed with wedding prep, but all I noticed were Connor's shaky hands and Sophia's pale face. At the ceremony, my mom was glowing as the guests settled in, but the weight hanging over us was too much for me to enjoy her joy. As the vows began, I could barely breathe. The words, "I do," seemed like the ultimate betrayal of honesty, and I was ready for it all to collapse. I stood, interrupting the officiant. My voice shook but didn't break. The room turned deadly silent as my mom's smile evaporated. I looked straight at Sophia and said, "Tell them the truth." Her face drained of all color as gasps rippled through the crowd. Sophia stammered, "I don't know what you're talking about." Nobody believed her, not with the tremor in her voice. "Really? Should I say it then?" The room seemed to shrink. The silence unbearable. Sophia shook her head like she could stop me. I laid it bare. They'd been hiding an affair for months. My sister and fiancé looking guilty, my mother stunned silent. It was chaos. Sophia shouted, "I didn't want this," while Connor's terrified expression confirmed everything. I felt sick but also empowered. My mom rushed out crying, while Sophia and Connor tried to explain away their betrayal to the stunned room. Nobody was buying it. Guests whispered furiously, their glances darting between me, Connor, and Sophia, as chaos simmered in every corner of the room. Sophia broke down crying, ruining her makeup, as Connor whispered something in her ear, probably begging her to salvage their nightmare. Someone touched my shoulder softly. It was my cousin. "Elle, are you okay?" I said nothing, just blinked away stubborn tears. I walked outside the church, alone, the fresh air breaking the suffocating tension inside. People would soon follow, but I needed to breathe. Sophia came out, her voice shaking. "We didn't mean for this to happen," she said, but it sounded hollow, just like her laugh before. I told her, "You didn't mean for me to find out?" Her stunned expression looked like the slap I hadn't given her yet. Connor came out too, paling as he saw my expression. I could see him trying to piece some excuse together, but he didn't even speak. "What am I supposed to do? Pretend this never happened," I said, loud enough for the few trickling guests to hear. My mom reappeared, her eyes red and angry. "You should have told me," she said to me quietly, before turning her rage towards both of them. Sophia crumbled under my mom's fury, sobbing and gasping, while Connor's expression started to crack into visible desperation. I walked away, leaving them to deal with the fallout. The cold air felt like freedom against my skin. I stood by the road, watching as murmurs behind me filled the air. Vows broken, lies exposed. It was over, and I felt alive. I was at Sophia's wedding. The ceremony was picture perfect. Her lace veil shimmered in the sunlight. Everyone echoed whispers about how angelic she looked. I sat stiffly, waiting for something to go wrong. The ceremony was flawless. Sophia looked perfect with her groom. I sat 3 rows back, feeling tense, trying to blend into the background. The piece felt brittle, fragile, like glass waiting to break. As the reception unfolded, I felt more trapped than ever. Connor, in his role, avoided any eye contact, focusing on the family he now belonged to. The tension was suffocating every time I glanced over. Sophia's toast was the breaking point. She thanked everyone for support, but her words grated against the knot of betrayal inside me. I couldn't hold back any longer, and I stood abruptly, chair scraping loudly. "Support?" I started, voice trembling yet firm. "You mean sneaking around with my husband?" Silence dropped like a weight. Eyes widened, Sophia froze mid-toast, and the room felt suspended in disbelief. The air turned thick with tension. Conversations halted, forks stopped clinking, faces mirrored shock. Connor shifted uncomfortably, not brave enough to interrupt or defend himself. I felt both liberated and raw. Sophia's face shifted from surprise to denial. "There's been a misunderstanding," she squeaked, desperately trying to salvage the ceremony's glamour. But the whispers grew, unstoppable and judgmental like a storm. Connor finally raised his gaze, briefly meeting mine with a mixture of shame and defiance. I didn't flinch, a silent accusation resonating in space between us. The truth blazed brighter than any vow that day. As I stared at them, their pretensions crumbled, and guests murmured. My truth left a mark far deeper than any wedding toast. I turned away, not to escape, but to finally breathe a sense of my own justice. Outside, the cool air cut through the tension I left behind. I felt lighter, yet hollow, like I just shattered what was holding me. The truth was freeing but exhausting, the aftermath unclear in its wake. I walked through the downtown streets, heels clicking rhythmically. Each step was a reminder of the choice I'd made, painful, necessary, irrevocably honest. The city lights blurred softly like my mixed emotions. Memories surged, bouncing between moments of betrayal and brief flashes of happiness. I realized how fragile joy had been under the weight of deception. My past unspooled like unfamiliar threads under moonlight. The sound of laughter from a passing couple made me smile wryly, reminder of simpler times. I wondered how long it would take to rebuild trust, and if love could ever be simple again for me. Suddenly, a familiar ringtone jolted me. My phone vibrated with messages, words of support I hadn't expected. Friends who witnessed the drama reached out, echoing sentiments of solidarity in my boldness. Their encouragement buoyed me, reminding me that sometimes to confront is to heal. A warmth spread through the cold night air, subtly changing my view from isolation to connection. A new start, maybe. I returned home with a mixture of hope and apprehension. The truth was out. Now I faced the future, uncertain but mine to shape. My home felt different, subtly altered by my newfound clarity and resolve. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of familiarity but tinged with change. The echoes of my boldness lingered in the rooms, urging me to confront what had long been hidden in plain sight. I sat with a pen and paper, ready to sketch out the makings of a new life. Thoughts flowed naturally, detailing notions of independence, peace, and unforeseen happiness, where authenticity ruled all. It wasn't perfect. A few scribbles indicated confusion, but slowly the picture of what's possible emerged. I understood that this was just the beginning, and beginnings are always slightly chaotic and exciting. Whispers of doubt came to challenge me, asking if truth disrupted lives or liberated them. I chose the latter, aligning my pen with purpose. It felt rewarding, but extending past superficial judgments. Days passed with a newfound rhythm. I discovered solitude had a voice, gentle, guiding, less lonely. Each routine moment was softer, infused subtly with the peace of having faced the inevitable truth. I realized how betrayal had held me captive, and breaking free was a gift I'd granted myself. The sun streaked the room with light as dawn kissed the surfaces, symbolizing the journey from darkness. A friend's visit brought laughter back, proving trust can be rebuilt one genuine moment at a time. We reminisced and forgave, sharing stories and reminders that healing is seated in shared experience. As we talked, I found myself saying out loud that happiness can be grown from the ashes of deceit. It wasn't groundbreaking, but true. Layers of scars peeled away, revealing new hope beneath. Later, alone, by window, I watched the city life breathe beyond the pain. Each moving part a testament that life continues. Echoes of my choice nodded within me, urging for forward movement. I accepted imperfection might linger, like the city sounds below, but amidst that noise, I found clarity. It was time to embrace what I'd earned, a fierce independence wrapped in raw authenticity. Each decision forward rang with impact, subtly revealing trust. Although alone, I felt buoyed by purpose. Past burdens faded slowly. I stepped into my own rhythm, clearer than before, returning to familiar places, coffee shops, parks, reminded me that freedom is woven into everyday grace. I moved through spaces with newfound lightness, shedding the remnants of betrayal. The laughter of others in the park no longer held bitterness. I joined, casual and honest, blending with communal joy. At that moment, I knew healing was not only possible, but tangible. As I walked away from the park, twilight softening the day, a tranquil clarity unfolded. No reservations lingered. Forgiven by myself, I stepped forward, at peace, into whatever lay ahead. I remember the moment vividly. The room was bustling with guests. Chatter echoed off the walls, but I was focused on Sophia's frozen face. The microphone slipped from her hand. A gasp hit the crowd like a thunderbolt. Connor, in his fine suit, stood still, his eyes wide in disbelief. Sophia tried to regain control. "Eliza," she snarled, her voice barely holding. Her accusation cut through the tension sharply. Eliza stood defiant, her chin raised as she revealed the truth. Chaos rippled through the crowd. Whispers and gasps intertwined like wind. I scrolled through the photos on my phone, each one proving Sophia's deceit. The groom turned, questioning her, but she was speechless. Sophia's eyes darted, searching for words, but they deserted her. She was cornered, panic etching lines across her face. Security rushed towards me. They were intent on removing me from the scene. Sophia's scream filled the air, desperate and raging. I stayed put, determined to watch the chaos unfold. Every guest was riveted, their eyes fixed on Sophia's unraveling. The groom's expression morphed from shock to disgust, as whispers filled the air like an unwelcome fog. His face told the story of betrayal. Guests exchanged glances, each photograph on my phone more damning than the last. The room seemed to pulse with disbelief and judgment. I watched Sophia's facade crumble, each crack visible as her deception was laid bare. Her eyes pleaded silently for escape and understanding. Connor's shoulders slumped, his heart visibly breaking. His dreams shattered around him just like the reception he'd planned with such care. Still standing, Sophia trembled at the heart of the storm. Her cheeks flushed, defeated, but refusing to collapse under the weight of the truth. The echoes of her past surged forward, each photo an unanswerable question. I could almost hear the ripping, sounds of broken trust across the room. Security was relentless, but carefully halted. This was public now, and removing me, the truth bearer, wouldn't erase that fact. Guests watched for Sophia's next move. Connor's eyes drilled into her, demanding explanations she couldn't provide, as each second stretched unbearably. Sophia finally found the words, ending silence with desperate pleas, but they fell flat as the truth blazed across the room and extinguished hope. I watched as realization gripped Connor, his stance stiff and guarded. The hope of reconciliation evaporated, leaving him staring at her empty promises. Sophia's voice dwindled, leaving a silence louder than any shout. The room pulsed with the heaviness of unspoken truths and shattered love. I turned away from her, ready to leave, but the moment felt eternal. My heart raced with all I'd done, knowing I couldn't take it back. As I stepped out, the air felt different. The guilt weighed heavy, but there was a twisted satisfaction in seeing everything I'd suspected confirmed. The quiet welcomed me, leaving behind a fractured scene inside. Outside, the dark sky was vast and indifferent, a stark contrast to the chaos. The weight of my actions settled in as I walked away. I felt both victorious and guilty, knowing I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. In solitude, I wrestled with my conscience. The truth lingered like a specter, haunting with every step I took towards my car in the quiet lot. Eventually, I slid into the driver's seat. The engine purred beneath me, but its familiar sound was drowned out by the echo of the night's events. I sat there for a long moment, contemplating everything. The exhilaration of revelation mingled with regret, crafting a turbulent storm inside my mind. My phone buzzed. Texts from guests at the scene, filled with gratitude and anger alike. Virtue and vice swirled together in the aftermath. I finally started the drive home, mentally replaying the night's chaos. The road stretched ahead like an uncertain future, leaving a bittersweet taste. The past echoed with each passing streetlight, reminding me of the cost of unveiling deceit. Yet there was no turning back now. I arrived home, the world quiet, as if holding its breath with me. I sat still, the weight of truth heavy but fulfilling in its honesty. I was at the venue, watching everyone celebrate under the glittering lights. I sneaked glances at Connor, hoping to catch a loving smile, Sophia's entrance was like ice water to my warm hopes. She arrived, exuding confidence, looking straight past me to Connor. Sophia approached Connor with that glimmer in her eye. My stomach churned as I watched them, feeling like an outsider in my own life. I saw Connor hand something to Sophia. Was it a necklace? My growing doubt stole a piece of my heart. My breath caught. I retreated to a corner, feeling invisible amidst laughter and joy I didn't understand anymore. Then Sophia's voice cut through my isolation. She ordered me away, the crowd now silent, watching the unfolding drama. I barely recognized my feet as they moved against the concrete. Her voice echoed, harsh, unforgiving, each word a dagger. Outside, the cold night air nipped at my skin. It felt like the end of something I hadn't expected to lose. My chest heaved as tears escaped without permission. It was all too much, the weight of betrayal crushing me suddenly. I felt Connor's presence beside me before hearing his voice. The air thickened with unspoken apologies and unresolved pain. He murmured my name, but I couldn't meet his gaze. Rage had replaced the love I once felt. He didn't deserve a glance. "Don't!" I warned him. My voice was shaky but firm, a shield against further betrayal, fortifying my bruised existence. Connor tried to reach for me, his hand hesitant. I stepped back, the silent space between us now a wall he couldn't breach. I asked him if it was worth it, Sophia over everything we had. My words sliced through the silence like a dagger. He didn't answer. Maybe he couldn't. The truth hovered like a ghost between us, whispering what neither of us could say. I realized Connor wasn't worth my words anymore. I turned away, leaving him standing alone under the streetlight's harsh truth. With each step, I felt a burgeoning strength pulling me out of the despair that had enveloped me. On the bus ride home, I gazed out the window, watching the city lights blur with my unshed tears. Home felt colder than I remembered. I sat in my room, the silence stretching like an unwanted comfort around me. I focused on finding new ways to rebuild, but his ghost lingered, a stubborn presence that wouldn't let go. Days passed, each one slightly easier than the last. Memories of him faded, though echoes of us remained. A surprising letter arrived from Connor, his unsorted thoughts spilling onto the page. A closure I lacked but desperately needed. Reading his words, I understood his confusion and frailty. Not everything was as clear as I'd believed. I took a deep breath, folding the letter. Closure found a space within, not destroying but reshaping me. Finally, I welcomed the sunlight through the window, basking in the clarity of new beginnings, ready to move forward. Returning to my routine felt like embracing normalcy, though shadows of lost hopes lingered quietly. Slowly, I reached out to friends, reconnecting, though the echoes of the past sometimes visited unannounced. I stumbled upon moments of genuine laughter, healing quietly nestled in these small wonders. Unexpectedly, Sophia approached one day, her demeanor uncharacteristically humble. It felt odd, in a world still healing. Despite my reservation, Sophia helped me close the chapter with genuine apologies, both stepping back into silence. I remember peeking through a cracked door, feeling my stomach twist as my sister's wedding unraveled before my eyes, her groom pacing angrily. Sophia's groom, a tall man, in his 30s with a stern expression, demanded answers inside the elegant back room, his voice echoing betrayal. My mom sat in the corner, her eyes filled with tears, clutching her pearls as the tension tore her world apart, helpless. Sophia, a young woman in her late 20s, with shaking hands and panicked eyes, pleaded with her groom, but there was nothing to salvage. I backed away from the chaos, my heart heavy, knowing I couldn't mend the shattered relationship despite the heartbreak consuming our family. Weeks went by, silent phone calls from Mom, and her tearful voicemails stacking up, none answered by me. The distance felt necessary. Connor, a man in his early 30s, moved out swiftly, packing with an indifferent expression, leaving behind a heavy silence. In the wake of leaving, his absence echoed between the walls. Silence was the loudest noise I knew after he walked out. A knock on my door revealed Mom, fragile but persistent, her eyes pleading for reconciliation. I felt a clash of resentment and longing. Her voice wavered, asking me to forgive Sophia. Each word felt like a sharp knife, reminding me of the betrayal I couldn't forget. I finally spoke what weighed heavily inside. She ruined any chance I had at trusting again. My voice steady, yet filled with deep pain. Mom struggled, tears just below the surface, trying to hold on to hope amidst betrayal, her hands trembling lightly. I closed the door gently, shutting out the external noise, but hearing my heart echo with the drama that unfolded and continues. The apartment felt like a haven, yet lacked warmth. Grief hung like a silent companion accompanying my thoughts and solitude. I couldn't shake the visions of Sophia's pleading eyes and the disbelief in her groom's voice, replaying like a haunting film. Some nights I found comfort by writing letters to invisible recipients, releasing emotions I couldn't voice to anyone else. Conversations from the past echoed during lonely moments, reminding me of lost connections and the closure I longed for. I realized my world had shifted, the betrayal like a permanent scar, guiding future interactions cautiously at arm's length. At times, anger bubbled beneath, threatening my composed facade, but I bottled it tightly, unsure how to let go. Breaking down felt inevitable during those moments, surrounded by Sophia's wedding remnants that seemed to remind of harsh realities. Occasional calls from Mom spoke of family gatherings, filled with voices I longed to join, yet couldn't bring myself to answer. I met Connor unexpectedly in a cafe, with awkward glances and remnants of unresolved past reflecting in his eyes. The cafe surrounded us with clinking noises and muffled chatter, though our solemn silence felt louder, pulling at unspoken threads. Connor broke the silence, his words hesitant, evoking moments where honesty barely touched lingering resentment. Our conversation flickered, revealing fragments of pain and attempts at reconciliation, exploring forgotten paths slowly once again. I felt the stretching chasm narrowing between us, as if realizing the impact of dialogues left untouched for too long. Our encounter ended with mixed emotions, each stepping away with pieces of shared history that clung gently to our thoughts. I returned home, reflecting on the cafe meeting, pondering if trust could be rebuilt after betrayal had fractured it so deeply. Despite the turmoil, I imagined ways to let trust tiptoe back into my world, perhaps welcoming new beginnings cautiously. Sophia finally reached out. Her voice was soft, yet hesitant, carrying a sincerity her wedding day could not muster. Months ago, I discovered the betrayal. Connor was seeing Sophia behind my back. The heartbreak was suffocating, almost impossible to bear. I confronted Connor about the affair. He stumbled with excuses, but I saw through his lies. The disappointment was overwhelming. The day I decided to expose Sophia, fear mixed with determination. I needed the truth to be known. It was about reclaiming control. Using social media, I laid everything bare: screenshots, messages, undeniable proof. The rush of validation was immediate but bittersweet. I watched the fallout unfold. Sophia's reputation crumbled, and Connor couldn't hide anymore. It felt like justice, but also heartbreak. The aftermath was messy. Sophia tried to reach out, maybe apologize, but I ignored her pleas. Some breaches are beyond repair. Mom became the mediator, trying to mend bridges, but I resisted. Forgiving felt too easy, too dismissive of my pain. Months passed. The chaos quieted, but not the hurt. I retreated to old memories, seeking solitude to heal. Standing by the small lake from my childhood, I reflected on the upheaval. It was peaceful here, and I felt an odd release. The guilt of my actions lingered, but so did the relief. I realized I'd become someone different, a tougher, more resilient self. I understood now, revenge doesn't come clean. Exposing Sophia's affair brought closure, but not pure satisfaction. Justice and anguish walk a fine line. Time hadn't healed all wounds, but I felt less burdened, letting go of carrying what Sophia thought was liberating. Exploring the woods near home, I realized peace had started to return. I was reclaiming pieces of my old self. Despite broken bonds, I felt stronger. Connor's absence wasn't a void anymore. It was a chance to grow independently. Returning home, my heart was lighter. The silence now felt comforting, no longer a reminder of betrayal, but of new beginnings. Mom sees my change, proposing reconciliation again. I smile, unchanged. I'm not interested, but grateful for her love. I learned truths through painful experience, accepting life's imperfections with grace. Knowing some relationships stay fractured was part of it. As I gaze at old family photos, nostalgia mixes with new hope. I cherish what remains while letting go of what must pass. In my room, peace stretches further. The shadows now seem kind, cradling memories without the sting of melancholy. Walking away from the lake, I find clarity, a place I'd lost but rediscovered, not just externally, but within myself. The serenity grows, the memories transforming from chaotic events to parts of a deeper understanding. I'm embracing this shift. Sitting on the porch with a book, I let the world blur around me. Content in a newfound place, I can finally breathe deeply. Suddenly, Mom's voice breaks the reverie, bringing me back. The harmony didn't shatter, it merely slipped into a new rhythm. Amused at Mom's persistence, I gently refuse again. This isn't her battle. It's mine to decide when, if ever, to rebuild. Exploring my hometown brings comfort. The familiar paths guide me back, holding no animosity, only love and quiet resolve. Standing under the old oak tree, the gravity of my choices doesn't weigh me down anymore. It offers a grounded wisdom. With sunset casting pink hues, I whisper a silent goodbye to old grievances, welcoming a new chapter of peace and strength. Re-entering Mom's warm embrace feels like home. Differences aside, this undivided bond offers comfort I had almost forgotten. I realize some mending is unnecessary. Just being present is enough. The lake taught me peace isn't avoiding pain, but living alongside it. Now, standing at the lake's edge, I'm ready to step forward, past the betrayal. It's a fresh journey, and I'm breathing freely,